Hi everyone, my name is Vince here in Warque. I'm from BPED 1A, so I'm going to discuss about the cognitive and physical development in middle childhood. So for those who don't know, if I keep looking down, I have like provided the salient points or the overview of the topic so that I would be guided and I would somehow be expounding or like defining the definition or what this topic is all about. So heads up, this will be a long video and I will be tackling or I will be expounding um two topics that's about cognitive and physical development in middle childhood. So the overall overview is it talks about the aspects of physical development, health, fitness and safety, motor development and play, the Piagetian approach, psychometric approach or assessment of intelligence, language, the child in school, educating children with special needs. So, okay, let's proceed for the first talking the categories or the thing that somehow composes our topic. So the body growth. So these children is like estimated to be at exactly 6 to 12 years old of age, and they grow 2 to 3 inches between ages 6 and 11. So technically, by this like time frame of age, they somehow like grow in terms of their height. It might be 2 to 3 inches or whatsoever, as long as it somehow like covers the the description. Rather, it's either 2 or 3 inches. So next is kids double their weight between ages 6 and 11. So technically, when a specific child reaches this age, they would have like their weight would be like more higher or higher, and average 10-year old boy would be 85 pounds. That's the estimation with the body growth in the middle as a middle in middle childhood rather. And the average for a 10-year-old girl would be 88 pounds. So this is the height, the weight rather. Ito yung height na indicate sa description if ang isang bata ay kasali or what do you call this, nakakategorize sa what do you call, as a middle child rather. Sorry. Okay, so between 6 and 12 years old, 20 primary teeth are replaced with permanent teeth. So this is technically very easy to understand. So when a child reaches this age or become a middle child or on the phase of being a middle childhood, on the middle childhood, so his or her teeth would be replaced with permanent teeth. So yeah, that's just the basic of it. So it's very advisable to for these children to always brush their teeth and provide eating toxic or toxic edible food that might destroy your teeth. So that's basically it. So next, nutrition and sleep. School children need an average of 2,400 calories every day. So yeah, so it this is what a school child would need. He or she would be needing 2,400 calories every day. So he or she is advised or encouraged to eat something that is with calories, technically. Next is nutritionists recommend fruits, grains, vegetables, and carbohydrates. So since this is like given as an example, so children should have like engaged themselves or associate themselves by eating fruits, grains, since it is advisable and it can impact your health in a positive way, being a school child or in the middle childhood. So average 5-year old child sleeps 11 hours a day. So yeah, that's very understandable. And average 10-year-old sleeps about 10 hours a day, and average 13-year-old sleeps about 9 hours a day. Sleep there might be like sleep problems that might such as insomnia or lack of discipline. So technically insomnia is I have heard like a story from my teacher back then that insomnia is can be triggered if there were like things that happen that keeps triggering you, and that's refraining or it's inhibiting you to sleep. That might be like the cause of insomnia. Especially a kid, they're very gullible, and they somehow get scared easily, and so that might be like a cause of insomnia, but it shouldn't be like imposed to a child because they're too young to experience insomnia, right? So next, lack of discipline. So technically, if you're going to this just talks about if you're going to abuse yourself, you're inhibiting yourself like with force to not sleep. So yeah, that's lack of discipline. Next, motor development and play. Running, jumping, hopping, and ball skills more refined. Fine motor skills improve writing, starts off larger, and gradually decreases in size. So yeah, this is motor development and play. So technically this talks about like how a specific child would move or use his body to locate things, to do things, to even jump or hop, or yeah, as what the descriptions states here, it can be like how a child would move, or how would that person will utilize yeah, his locomotion capabilities. So yes, fine motor skills improve writing, starts off larger and gradually decreases in size. So yeah, when the motor skills of the child is developed, most likely the it can improve the handwriting of the child. Next is drawing. Drawing show gains in organization, detail, and representation of depth. Games with rules are more common. Children have a better concept of fairness and justice. PE class is very important, builds self-esteem and physical activity. So technically, this is just very basic and very understandable. It's if you're going to skim or read the description, it's very basic. So it just mainly talks about how a child would move or utilize his motor skills. Technically, just by walking or in engaging yourself into the society or in the environment, playing with your peers. Since in middle in if you're in a middle if you're a middle child, this is very it's very inevitable. It's very common to like engage yourself or play with people or youngsters like you. Next is obesity. So technically we're talking about like the problems are the most common thing that would happen to a middle if a child is on the childhood phase. So obesity. So by 2015, about 50% of children in North and South America will be overweight. About 17% of school children had BMI above 95%. This was surveyed on 2003 to 2006. About 33.3% were above 85%. Obesity has increased in all ethnic groups, though less so in Black and Hispanic children. So yeah, these statistics that's showing in the description technically just shows or proves that if a child is in the middle childhood phase, he or she would most likely be obese, and it's actually can be prevented if it's noticed or the parents is knowledgeable or educated about these things, because obesity is um a unhealthy thing a person would have, right? So technically, in this middle childhood, it's somehow like there's a huge chance for a child to be obese. So, and it also shows here that and Black and Hispanic children are like less likely to be obese, and maybe it's part of their culture, or maybe they have some factors that not that prevents them to become obese or overly weighted. So, what are the causes of obesity? First is genetics. It runs in the blood, or it runs in the blood of your family. So, technically, if there were cases in that runs in the family that's obese, technically that child or a newborn that comes from that family would be obese. Low cost or high fat foods and family stress. So, this is what causes obesity. Technically, it's consuming fat foods or consuming unhealthy food. Um, I'm not saying it's not like, because whether we admit it or not, it's really those fatty food is what we normally consume, because it's we cannot deny that it's delicious and it's super appetizing, but there should be like discipline. Um there should be a control with your food intake or the food you consume. And yeah, family stress, maybe there is like um there's this stress that makes you divert yourself into eating, so unknowingly we become fat or we become obese. Yes, food as a reward system. So yeah, this is technically very basic. If you are very stressed about something and you would, it's like food is like it seals everything. It's just a good thing that we can consider, and we technically divert our attention to this if we are stressed, and it's not necessarily a bad thing as long as you have control and discipline. Okay, lack of physical activity. Yeah, so if you consume amount of food, or whether you have discipline, but if you do not exercise, or you do not like what do you call this do physical activities that lessens or somehow reduces your weight, then that wouldn't work. I tell you, that wouldn't work. So, but of course, there are also cases, others, though there are disorders that's preventing someone to become fat. There are like disorders like, let's say for example, anorexia, bulimia, yeah, something like that. But let's not talk about that. Okay, so yeah, so those are the causes of obesity. But don't worry, I'm just going to show you the middle childhood phase, the children in the middle childhood phase that became obese here. Okay, next, accidental injuries. Okay, as in early childhood, accidental injuries is the number one cause of death among school age in the US. About 23,000 children in the US suffer brain injuries from bicycle accidents. Experts recommend that parents do not buy trampolines for their kids. So yeah, this is very basic, as since the what do you call this, the locomotor skills of the child in the middle childhood is somehow developed or somehow improved. So it's very inevitable for them to engage into physical activities, or into running, or into playing, or associating themselves with other kids. That's just very inevitable. So um all we have to do as parents, as no not I'm not a parent yet, to those parents that has like children, you should be very cautious about the surroundings, and you should also prioritize the safety of your children, because that's just it. Who wouldn't want safety, right? Everyone of us likes safety. That's just like the given fact. Okay, so let's talk about the Piagetian approach. I think it's pronounced that way because it's John Piaget. So it's Piagetian approach, something like that. Basta, as a what do you call this? Sorry. It comes from John Piaget. So at around age 7, children enter the stage of concrete operations, and they can use mental operations. Most 6, 7 years old can find their way to and from school, class inclusion, the ability to see the relationship between the whole and its parts. So it's simply talks about like a specific child would have like the mind to think or to rationalize things out, and they would have to know, as stated here, that they have the ability to see the relationship between the whole and its part, and they are technically or usually can find their way to and from school. So technically it's when like a child knows what's happening around him or her. So yeah, that's technically like the summary of the Piagetian approach. Because if I'm going to expound this approach, this video would take too long. Next is psychometric approach or assessment of intelligence. So yeah, so we cannot really just say that acing your quizzes is the definition of intelligence. No, that's not it. If you believe that, sorry, let me break it down to you, but not. It's not. It will never be, because a lot of people, or each one of us is unique. We even have like different what do you call this, thumbprints. So we have our own gifts or our capabilities, such as, first, as stated here. So it's how we would be able to, it's how we can assess or intelligence. So first is the uh, first is the linguistic. It's like being somehow intelligent, or basically being intelligent in terms of language. Next is the logical mathematical. So these are very logical people, and they somehow find their way out. These are people that are very dominant in terms of mathematics, in which I hate so much. Um, Next is the extant spatial, for example, gifted in arts, and they can actually think outside the box. These are very creative individual. Next is bodily kinesthetic, or the precision of movement. So these are individuals that are very precise in terms of their movement, and they're very flexible. Next is interpersonal. Interpersonal is being somehow a social butterfly. He a person or an individual having this kind of gift is very um somehow knows how to deal with people. Next is intrapersonal. It's like being intelligent. It's smart self. You know what you are capable of, and you know how to decide for yourself. Next is naturalist. So it's like these natural being a naturalist is somehow recently discovered. So it can distinguish species. Okay, so the child in school, early school experience critical for success or failure, becoming literate, reading, and writing. So technically, a child in school is there technically to learn not just like a fountain or a specific type of knowledge, but they are there to learn morals and to instill or harness their discipline for themselves. And yeah, technically, it's becoming literate and learning how to read and write. The child in school continuation. So yeah, gender girls tend to do better than boys. So it's like just a given. I think this is based from the statistics that they have gathered. Boys do better than girls on science and math tests that are not closely related to material taught in school. So yeah, it's like somehow like a claim or like a survey that boys do well or excel in this field in mathematics that are not really actually taught. Peer acceptance is like being accepted by your peers or your acquaintances. Next is socioeconomic status is like your social hierarchy or where you are in the society. So next is educating children with special needs. So in we have here mental retardation, learning disabilities or such as dyslexia, attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, or these gifted children. So yeah, even though a specific child is very extremely intelligent, that child would need still like assistance, because um it would be unfair to inject them to a normal classroom setting, because though they're very intelligent, but their intelligence is beyond that, and they would have a hard time socializing with people. And yeah, mental retardation, it's like these are individuals that has like problem in terms of how they act, or how they deal things, or how they think. They might be slow in terms of their progress as a person, but that's not the case. The school or this special education is there to assist them, and all we have to do is accept them in the society, and somehow condone the fact that people like these, or people like this, like them exist, and we should live in a society where no judgment should be thrown, or basis prejudice should be thrown at them. So yeah, learning disabilities dyslexia, it's technically the having a hard time. I think that dyslexia is having a hard time writing. I no, reading dyslexia. This yeah, dyslexia. Yeah, dyslexia is having a hard time reading. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, attention deficit disorder is these are very hyperactive people and should be catered as well. So yeah, let's proceed to the next topic. So yeah, the technically the second topic is just talks about or somehow expounds like the factors concerning the middle childhood phase of a child. So yeah, it's very we have understood already that the physical appearances of these children are somehow changed, or it somehow evolves to something, or enhances in terms of their height, in terms of their weight, and in terms of their teeth. Yeah, because you learn that it's it's being replaced with permanent teeth already. So yeah, so let's discuss about like the categories of the locomotor skills of children. So first is coordination. It is a series of movements organized and timed to occur in a particular way to bring about a particular result. Children develop eye-hand and eye-foot coordination when they play games and sports. It's technically how you would how a children or a child would deal himself or move himself in terms of playing or moving even. So next is balance, is the child's ability to maintain the equilibrium or stability of his or her body in different positions. So if what do we mean by equilibrium? Equilibrium is the balance. It's somehow the division of balance. So technically the child would have this sense of balancing for himself in terms of his or her movement, since we are talking about the locomotor skills of a child. Next is static balance, is the ability to maintain equilibrium in a fixed position, like balancing on one foot. So technically, this would be developed. A child would be very balanced in terms of his movements or his locomotion skills. Next is dynamic balance, is the ability to maintain equilibrium while moving. So yeah, while moving, you would still need balance, because if not, you would stumble somewhere. So technically, it just talks about this somehow. The dynamic balance talks about like, yeah, about movement. Next is speed. It's is the ability to cover a great distance in the shortest possible time. So yeah, you are very fast in terms of things, running or locomotion, because yeah, again, we are talking about the locomotion, or how a specific child utilizes his um locating parts of his or her body. Somehow, yeah, that's just technically it. And next, agility is one's ability to quickly change or shift the direction of the body. So that is agility. It's like how swift your body is in terms of moving, and you somehow divert your attention or your body to something very interesting, and you wouldn't break a sweat, because it's very easy and it's just a piece of cake for you. So yeah, you got it right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you got it right. So, lastly is power, is the ability to perform a maximum effort in the shortest possible time. So, yeah, this is not a power that you would choose like fire, water. It's not that. But don't you know that we have power in terms of our locomotion skills, or somehow composes our locomotion skills? Yes, there is. We can actually go to a specific extent in which we want ourselves to go in that way. So it's like the maximum, it's like reaching the maximum effort our body can do. So yeah, that's the definition of power. If you are disappointed, then sorry, this is the definition of power in terms of your locomotion skills in the middle childhood phase. Take note of that. So So next is the understanding the self. So technically, it's not just like about you being a grown up, understanding yourself and distinguishing the passion that you are very passionate about. That's not what this is. So understanding the self technically, if you are in the middle childhood phase, you would learn to understand yourself by counting the peers that you have, or the friends that you interact with, that you are very comfortable with. So that is how a specific child would understand himself or herself. It's like when he feels accepted ba? When he feels when he or she feels belongs in a specific group, and that's when he or she would learn to understand himself, and she would then like tell tell himself that, oh wow, I'm actually a good person. I'm actually a good person since I have a lot of friends. So that is the mentality of middle childhood, and somehow their basis is about the number of peers they interact with. So yeah, that is the understanding the self. The school years. In the transition from pre-elementary to primary school, children tend to become increasingly self-confident and able to cope well with social interactions. The issues of fairness and equality become important to them as they learn to care for people who are not part of their families. So yeah, if aside from their peers, they somehow, one factor that influences them is their family. If a child is exposed in an environment that is very healthy and somehow nurturing himself or the child's development, then that's actually a good thing, and that can develop self-confidence within the child. And if the child would be able to have peers that accepts him or her, or does not like degrade him, then that's also a good thing. That's also a good thing. And that's in the school years, in the school year of a child, yeah, he would learn that the importance of fairness and equality, and they are somehow confident in like facing or injecting themselves in the school in school rather. So yeah, they build friendships with their classmates since they are there to somehow learn. Yeah, they interact with people and they start to somehow like manifest or learn the his or her peers has been taught with, and somehow he or she would share the things he learned from his or her home. So yeah, it's like unlearning things and somehow learning things. Yeah. um it's in terms of the middle childhood phase of a child, somehow important, the most important thing, or like one of the factors that's very important for them is their peers, because yeah, they somehow they find the belongingness, and they would be able to tell themselves that he or she belong in a specific group that accepts him, um along with his or her family. So yeah, next is antisocial behavior. So these are children that inhibits themselves to associate with other people and children. So the definition of this is when children poke, pull, hit, or kick other children when they are first introduced, it is fairly normal. Children at this age are still forming their own worldviews, and other children may seem like a curiosity that they need to explore. Parents and teachers can help children make friends. We can consider the following. So yeah, we somehow expose children, because if you're going to inject a specific child in a classroom setting and he feels very absurd within himself, or not absurd, very very, what's the word, it's at the tip of my tongue, um bizarre, I think. Okay, let's use bizarre. If they would feel like bizarre to somehow inject themselves in the new classroom setting, and it's just normal to not like somebody. And that is why there are teachers to somehow spread kindness and to teach them how to accept people and how to interact with people and how to be kind. So next is self-control. Once children reach school age, they begin to take pride in their ability to do things and capacity to exert effort. They like receiving positive feedback from their parents and teachers. This become a great opportunity for parents and teachers to encourage positive emotional responses from children by acknowledging their mature and compassionate behaviors. So technically, a child would gain self-control if the efforts of the child is acknowledged. That's just the most basic thing that we can actually give to a specific child, since that child is learning. And all we have to do, if even though there are no like perfect beings, it's not like they can do well every time, but that is why teachers and parents is very important, because children sees them as their foundation, and as a foundation you shouldn't you should share nothing but positive things about the child, even if um but of course you should also teach discipline. It's not necessarily always like pampering or like spoiling a specific child. So yeah, a child would gain self-control. So yeah, that's pretty much it, like my report. It's been a long video, but I'm really glad that you are still with you are still here with me. So yeah, it somehow sums up that um a specific child or a specific person goes to different phases, and each phases are examined, and we still need to consider the reality and to somehow love children. That's just what I'm trying to say. It's like you would pull out the goodness of someone if you apply kindness. So yeah, that's pretty it. And thank you so much for sticking. This has been a very long video, and I'm very glad that I'm able to pull this off. Goodbye.